the next 6 weeks because we've got summer camp in the adjacent walls.
Well, at
Ready to
least
kick
I like
this
the
off?
song.
All right, good. Then we're good.
All right, so let's talk mortgages.
Let's talk to Walter Bianchi of Choice Mortgage. Interest rates, you were in the mortgage business for a while.
Well, I want to ask him because is it true they're not going to raise the interest rate again, or is that a rumor?
Well, we have to decide what we're talking about. The federal funds rate, which is what the Fed controls. Yes, they're talking about pausing this month. Not stopping the increases, just pausing, take a breath, see how the economy goes. Mortgage rates are not the federal funds rate. There's a meme I like to publish with an apple and an orange, and one says federal funds rate and the other says mortgage rates. They're completely different. Mortgage rates respond to the demand and supply of millions of investors for money all over the world, whether the federal funds is an administered rate by the Federal Reserve. They're expected to pause as the inflation numbers have come down. Just this morning, I was from Choice's analysis desk. I was getting this email here. I'll refer to my notes. In February, the inflation rate was 6. In March, it was 5. In April, 4.9. Tomorrow, we're expecting a reading between 4.1 and 4.2, which is a significant decrease. Last year at this time, it was around 8.3. So as these things come down, interest rates and mortgage rates will fall, and they're expecting them to be in the 4.5% to 5% next year. But they've been coming down for a while, and even if you do buy today and you later realize your rate is pretty high, you can always do a refi later on. What they say is marry the house, but date the rate.
Well, you know, it's funny you say that because I think it isn't the rate, it's more the psychology behind it. Because I used to sell mortgages for 12, 13, 14%, and nobody died. And then when it went down to zero, everybody says, well, this is great. No kidding. Zero is great, but it's not sustainable. So even at 4 to 5, I still think it's a good deal. The psychology
it's
behind
true.
it is important.
I'm going to date myself now, but my first mortgage was at 16%. But the home I bought was a condo for 62 grand.
That's
so
the
my mortgage
difference.
payment, my actual money payment was affordable. The problem is that the percentage of your income that people spend on their mortgage today is twice what it was in 1990, and that is the problem.
But the problem is that eggs used to be $6 a dozen too, and now I hear that you go to Aldi's, you get $3.
Yes, they've come down. There's no more bird flu.
Well, they must have found another chicken.
But I think that's the difference. Housing prices have gone up. Interest rates have gone up. Right, you're not buying a condo for $60,000 anymore at 16%. That condo's now $300,000 or $400,000 at 6%.
Yeah, we've had kind of a perfect storm here. We had a lack of inventory even before COVID hit, right? Then COVID and it ran up the interest rates and everything. And so what we had is a decrease in inventory, especially here in Florida, and the states where people are moving, Texas, California, Arizona, and Florida. So a decrease of inventory coupled with an increase in prices as the low interest rates fueled this rise. When the interest rates began to rise again, now you have the perfect storm. You have sellers that can't sell because they have a 3% mortgage. Who's going to sell a 3% mortgage and buy a 7% house? So inventory is already low, and buyers are having a harder time getting financed because prices are higher and interest rates are higher, so their affordability is less. Now, the market will eventually sort all this out, but right now, we're in a bit of a tough time. Now, you can always get good mortgages. There are all kinds of things we can do to help. There are buy downs, interest rate buy downs, seller contributions, all kinds of things that your lender can help.
Need you closer to your mic.
But is it more important to have a good credit score and the psychology of buying, or is it more important to look at interest rates? Because what dictates is your credit score, correct?
Yeah, your score is important, not only for lending, but these days insurance companies look at your credit score.
Everything.
It's used a lot more than just in home lending, but in home lending it's fundamental. If you don't have a good credit score, you're literally not going to, well, you know, with a very bad score, you're going nowhere. But there are loans like FHA loans that are more tolerant for low credit scores, higher debt ratios, and things like that. So the first thing to do, long before you look for a house, is to talk to a lender, have them pull your credit, see what there is. Most credit reports have errors in them. And so if you do it just before you're ready to buy a house, there's no time to fix that error. You may be stuck with a higher rate because of your lower score. If you do it 6 months in advance, you have time to fix things. So I always tell people, if you're thinking about next summer because the kids are out of school, whenever your time frame is, do it now. Let's plan our way going forward.
So you're just not standing around mulling. Is
I
the
feel like
interest rate's gonna
you're
go
in
up
my
and
head
down?
again saying it's the long game, not the short game.
It's always the long game. But the object of the game is to buy right. So if you meet somebody like him and you get your credit score straightened out, even though you're going to be buying, but you want to see what happens with the rates. If your credit score is in the toilet, then you're going to have a problem no matter what. But if you fix it, if it's fixable, you fix it, and everything is fixable, then you're in a better
You
position.
know, I get a
to
lot of clients
negotiate.
saying, no, I don't want you to pull my credit score yet. Okay, but then when you write a contract, and I have to pull it in order to issue a pre-approval letter, you may find there's an error that costs you a quarter point on rate, and then there's nothing you can do about it, and then you're stuck.
And somewhere along the line, they know that the credit is bad. Because you know when your credit is bad.
Otherwise,
you
they
know it.
wouldn't have told you, please don't pull my credit score.
That's right. That's right. If
You'd
they
be
don't
surprised.
know, it's one thing. But
You'd be
if they do
surprised.
know, let's work off an old one and make sure everything on
You'd
there
be
is
surprised.
correct.
I've had people tell me their credit was great, and you pull it, and it's a 580 or something. So
Well, you know, people think 580 is great.
it's not.
420, they think is great too.
No, it's not.
You know, I mean, you live your own imagination. Oh, I should get a $1 million house at a 4% credit rate. Why? Because I've never paid my stuff anyway.
Have you
so-
ever noticed people have this false sense of everything?
Yes.
Everything's better in their mind than it truly
If you heard
is.
the morning show, you know what I'm going through. Yes.
I think that's truly, everyone thinks everything in their mind is better than it is. Like values of their house, what they look like, their kids. Everything is just a degree of better than it truly is.
Well, if you don't believe it, then nobody else will.
I guess that's what it is.
You got to say go high and sell low.
I guess that's the truth.
You know, I wanted to jump in here with a final thought. People say, you know, when is the right time to buy a house? Okay, and maybe the market's. I'm going to wait for the prices to drop. I'm going to wait for rates to drop. There's no assurance they will. The right time to buy a house is when you need a house and you can afford a house. They say that real estate is the cornerstone of the wealth of most Americans. Absolutely not true. The cornerstone of everybody's wealth is their job. You buy a home to live in it. You know, your daughter plays the piano in that corner over there. You have your Christmas tree over there. That table over there has your Thanksgiving buffet out on it. You know, you live your life there. Your wealth is your job. So if you end up with a home that you overpaid by 20 grand for, in the long run, on the millions of dollars you make over the course of your career, who cares? If your interest rate is a quarter point or half a point higher than it could have been if you had waited for the perfect moment, who cares? Buy a home when you need a home and you can afford one.
I always say buy it yesterday because if you wait for tomorrow, that's not guaranteed either. So, you know, my very first house in the Bronx, I drove by Hollywood Avenue in the Bronx. This is going back a ways. And I said, oh my God, I got to live here. Because it was like doll houses, all brick houses, beautiful neighborhood. And nobody in my house ever owned a home. Nobody in my family ever owned a home. So I stole the sign, the for sale sign. You used to have those aluminum ones. I stole it, took it home. Left my business card, says, if you want your sign back, call me. So she called me. Do you know that I lived in that house, I think, 11 years, sold it for whatever I sold it. I did more business with that real estate agent because she thought that was the smartest thing ever.
You stole the sign?
I stole the sign. Hey, listen, I'm going to get this house one way or the other. You know, and this is the way I got it. And when she sold it to me, there was a bunch of people that wanted the house too. But I came in, I worked for a mortgage bank, I was doing a loan originator. I says, here's my money, let's go, here's my guarantee, let's go.
But I think you'll always second guess, is it the right house, is it the right rate? If I wait another month, will it come down a quarter point? You just got to do what you got to do, I think.
You know, there's the old Chinese saying, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The next best time is right now.
That's right.
Same thing with homes. Best time to buy a home was 2 years ago. The next best
Is now.
is right now.
Home grows into you don't know what.
You offer all kinds of mortgages, conventional,
The whole,
everything.
the whole
you name it.
range of residential. We do not do home equity lines of credit. Other than that, we have everything.
FHA, conventional.
FHA, conventional, VA, USDA, believe it or not, offers a loan product for rural properties, which is 100% financing. So you literally can own a home with no money out of pocket, like VA.
You go get a farm.
Not unless you're going to feed the pigs.
I told you, that's like Green Acres. We had this conversation the other day. There's you and then there's me, Green Acres. Remember that? You're on the farm and I'm still back to the pigs eating what? Remember that? We
Like I
talked
tell
about
you,
composting.
you feed the pig. Yeah, you can feed the pig.
Yeah, but you can do it 100%. There are people that's really important to.
It needs to be in a rural area, so there's only certain areas you have to check. the
Isn't rural
eligibility.
considered like out west?
There are some places nearby, like out Wellington, past Wellington, stuff like that. But
Where the Everglades is.
yeah,
Where
close
the
to that.
alligators meet
Mostly it's
humans.
Central Florida, where there's a lot of extra.
Are there special mortgages maybe for young people, first-time home buyers,
You know,
different rates?
Everybody talks about first-time buyer programs. Look, there really aren't. There are low down payment programs, okay? FHA, VA. There are down payment assistance programs from the state of Florida. The First Bank of Atlanta offers one. There's all kinds of these things, but they run out of money regularly because Congress has to authorize this stuff. These days, getting Congress to agree on anything is a task. So there are low down payment programs, but really the only first-time buyer real thing is that on a conventional loan, meaning not government insured, the minimum down payment is 5%. But if you're a first timer, it's 3%. That's it. Everything else is marketing. Now, a first time buyer, by the way, is defined as somebody who has not owned real estate in 3 years. So if you owned a home 5 years ago and you've been renting for 5 years, you're a first time buyer. So you can get that 3%.
Well,
Comes
so
with
it
mortgage
flips over
insurance.
after 5 years.
Sorry?
It flips back to first-time home buyer after
Yeah,
5
it's
years.
3 years. Yeah. So if you owned 3+ years ago and you've been renting for the last 3 years, you're a first-time buyer, and you can
Interesting.
buy with a minimum 3% down. Otherwise, it's 5% down. Plus
Second
that
homes
mortgage
too?
insurance.
Second homes too? Like if I own one, I want to get a second?
No, then it's a regular conventional loan. No freebies, no bennies, no nothing.
But you could get a first-time mortgage. If you wanted to.
I don't
Now,
want
if you move, you can rent your home and buy another primary, but these are only for primary loans.
Interesting.
You know, it's funny because when I see homes, because I used to own homes, I see the futuristic value of it. And there's a lot of things that goes into that. For me, anyway, that's the way I buy them. And I haven't been wrong yet. And things grow, you know. Everything I used to own, I got out right before the bubble burst. I made money on all of that stuff and got out. But I was only a first-time home buyer on the very first. That's the one on Hollywood. That was the cream of the crop. That was the favorite one. That's the one that I redid the whole enchilada. And you know, you can enjoy owning a home, the adventures of doing it. You get somebody you trust, you get the credit going, you get that fixed. And then your kids, if you have children, they begin to learn what to do with their families and so on and so forth. When I used to close as a loan originator, I used to close in the basement of my house. I was a mortgage banker. I had a license. And I threw a party for the buyer and 40 people. I never solicited a piece of business in 17 years. Always had buyers. I had so many buyers and so many clients that I used to have to farm it out. So I've been a farmer in more than
know.
one way.
Those are the good old days, huh?
Well, what's the best way for people to reach you?
My phone number is area code 561-430-8877. ChoiceMortgage.com is the website. There's a little button at the top that says loan originators. It's in order of when we joined the company, so I'm the new kid on the block, so I'm the last one on the list, but I'm right there. You can click on that, and if you want to give me a call and see what your options are and or apply for a loan, you can do so right from the website.
Terrific. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure. And
All right,
may I
we'll
say, I
take it-
really enjoyed the singing here, and I
Well,
want to know
more to come.
if you have any gigs around town. I need to know about it.
We're working on it.
We're working on it.
Oh, that was great. That was really great.
All right, let's take a commercial break. When we come back, more with Megan, and let's chit-chat around the room on this
Chit-chat.
Manic Monday. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Do you have an idea for a show or a podcast? Do you want the opportunity to be on TV? Ant Media Productions is partnered with True Old